Welcome back, U.S. history students. In this video, we are going to be looking at Mr. Teddy Roosevelt there, my personal favorite president of the United States. I mean, just look at that smile right there. How can you not love this guy, what he stands for, and just overall who he was as a person? He's out on Mount Rushmore for a reason, and a big part of that reason is because he was instrumental to the progressive era and pushing the progressive era forward. Now, if you see me exiting out of this video and checking to make sure that everything's working, I just recorded this video once for like 12 minutes and then it told me none of it actually recorded, so I'm kind of paranoid right now, but hopefully this all works in one take. So first of all, Teddy Roosevelt, he was born in New York State in 1858. He's born to a pretty wealthy, waspy family. He's just the standard of what an American is at the time. He was a wrestler, he was a boxer, he went to Harvard, so we know he's really smart. He shot guns, he rode horses. He's a real man's man of the time. You can just think of him as the definition of masculinity. Holds many jobs throughout his life. He's part of the New York State government. He becomes a police commissioner, Navy assistant secretary, and then once the United States gets involved in the Spanish-American War, Teddy Roosevelt is the first person to volunteer for the Spanish-American War, and he starts to assemble a crew around him to go off and fight against the Spanish in the country of Cuba, and he called that group the Rough Riders. And no, I'm not talking about legendary hip-hop artist DMX and his Rough Rider crew. Those are not the Rough Riders that we're going to be talking today, but the Rough Riders were this U.S. volunteer cavalry regiment. So Teddy Roosevelt convinced a bunch of men from all over the country, coming from all sorts of backgrounds, to come meet him in Texas to train to go fight this war in Cuba against the Spanish. Now, they're not part of the military, yet they're volunteering, meaning they weren't just standing military members. So it's pretty impressive he's able to assemble all of these individuals. They got a lot of good media through the Battle of San Juan Hill, where it's reported that they charged up bravely with Teddy leading them. Whether that actually happened or not is pretty hotly debated. But the point is that when Teddy Roosevelt got home, him and the Rough Riders were kind of like national heroes. People saw them as pretty awesome individuals, and you can see this whole picture of Teddy Roosevelt right there and the Rough Rider crew. So when he gets back, he's pretty popular, and he rides that wave of popularity into some pretty high-level political office. He becomes the New York State governor in 1889. He holds that for a number of years, and then when President William McKinley runs for the presidency of the United States, Teddy Roosevelt signed on to be his vice president, and after they won that election, Teddy Roosevelt was vice president for 6 months, and during that time he spoke probably his most famous quote, which says, "Speak softly and carry a big stick and you will go far," meaning that Teddy Roosevelt wasn't going to be loud and in your face about something. He's going to be able to back up the things that he wants. That's his big stick. But he's saying that yelling, screaming, trying to get your way isn't going to do a whole lot, but show people how you can achieve the goals that you want to. And 6 months into being president, William McKinley is assassinated, and Teddy Roosevelt becomes president himself. So let's review this for a second, what's going on. We know we're in the time of the Industrial Revolution. There's a huge technological and economic boom going on that we've never seen anything like it before. Huge businesses, monopolies are popping up, dominating industries, and they're brand new industries that we've never had before. We've never had large-scale railroad and oil and coal and steel industries before. Food production, we've never had that at such a large scale. So there's not any regulation on the labor force and what these companies are doing. The government hasn't had time to process it and kind of realize the need for regulating these businesses. On top of that, we have a huge growing population. We have immigrants coming in. People are moving into the cities. We need resources in order to build up the cities and provide for these people. So we have a lot of needs and a lot of new issues arising during this time that once the progressive era really kicks off, it's up to people like Teddy Roosevelt to solve some of these problems that are coming up. And Teddy Roosevelt was up for the challenge. He saw that there are a lot of issues that needed to be addressed, and as president, he knew it was his duty to fix them. So we sum up kind of Teddy Roosevelt's progressive spirit in something called the square deal. That's what he believed was uh, what he used to sum up his plan for making the United States better. And we can categorize it by the three C's: corporation control, conservation, and consumer protection. And that's what we're about to cover right now. So you should know definitely what these three C's are before class tomorrow. The first one being corporation control. We know that trust is another word for a monopoly, or these huge industries that are dominated by one central company. Teddy Roosevelt knew this was bad long term for the U.S. economy. You need competition. You need people to be able to start businesses and enter into these industries in order to have an economy that's more stable. Because if that monopoly were to fall apart or something were to happen, that resource market is just going to absolutely collapse. So Teddy made it his goal to start breaking up these trusts. We call him a trust buster. He broke up 40 trusts in total during his presidency, spanning from the railroads all the way to Standard Oil. He actually ended John D. Rockefeller's monopoly over the oil industry. And Teddy Roosevelt also was a champion of organized labor. He really focused on the rights of workers in these industries where there is no regulation, and their rights to organize into labor unions. There's my fiance. She's texting me, sorry that I recorded this video already once and it all disappeared. It's a huge problem, guys. This has kind of been a damper on my night, but we'll press on. If I can get through it, you guys can get through my sadness. So in 1902, there's a huge strike of the coal workers in the United States, and Teddy Roosevelt supported them, showing to the media and to the rest of the country that he supported labor unions, which are a big controversial issue at this time. So corporation control, trust busting, and also backing the establishment of labor unions, two of Teddy Roosevelt's big things. Second C, conservation. Again, he's a huge outdoorsman. He loves to hunt, he loves to fish, he loves to go outside, he loves to explore. And Teddy Roosevelt was he was the first president to realize that we have a lot of natural resources in this country, but these new industries are starting to use them up. And if we keep using them at the rate that we are, we're not going to have any left over for the next generations. And we certainly wouldn't have had any left over for us now. So he began to focus on conserving our resources. Now you'll notice this guy right here. His name was John Muir. He's also my profile picture on Google. John Muir is really the first pure preservationist, conservationist, and champion of the national park system in the United States. He started something called the Sierra Club, which is the first conservation group in the United States. It's still out there today, and you can join it. Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir got along pretty well. They really enjoyed each other's company. John Muir had the idea for the national parks. Teddy Roosevelt was on board the first national park being established, being Yosemite National Park, where John Muir lived his life. And the two of them, although they differed on how to use our resources, John Muir says we should preserve them, meaning we should set aside forest land to never be used for anything except for walking around in and just being natural. Teddy Roosevelt was more of a conservationist, meaning we need to responsibly use our resources. But the two of them worked side by side. They both wanted to keep land out of the hands of big businesses that are going to exploit the land and use up all the resources. So conservation was the second of our three C's, and the last one being consumer protection. So we read a portion of The Jungle. You guys heard me read it to you as well. Industries aren't really looking out for their consumers. They're mislabeling their products. They're putting out medicine that actually doesn't do what it says it's going to do. Our food is unsanitary. Teddy Roosevelt passed something called the Food Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906, which actually got the idea from it because he read The Jungle and was so disgusted by the meatpacking industry. He's like, this needs to stop. We need to protect our consumers, and these companies have a responsibility to provide them with accurate information and also just safe products in general. He also knew that breaking up these monopolies made prices lower for consumers because one company wasn't controlling the entire industry and controlling the resource. So now there's competition. Where you have competition, you can have lower prices. So we would have things made more affordable for the American consumers. Those are our three C's: corporation control, conservation, and consumer protection. And the last thing we need to cover here are or were the muckrakers. So you ever walk around on the bottom of a lake, and when you're dragging your feet, it kicks up a lot of dirt. And after the dust on the bottom of the lake settles, you may actually see something that was buried before. That's this concept of muckraking. Muckrakers were investigative journalists. We have people like Upton Sinclair, who wrote The Jungle, focusing in on the meatpacking industry. Ida M. Tarbell, who's pictured right here, and her work with Standard Oil, and Lincoln Steffens, who was a man who focused on political machines within our country. These three people and many more kind of began the whole industry of investigative journalism, meaning they are looking into industries heavily and kind of exposing corruption or bad things about them, putting that out into the media for the common everyday person to see. Ida M. Tarbell was responsible for writing a whole report on Standard Oil and its unlawful business practices and how it's harming the consumers, and helped lead to Teddy Roosevelt breaking up that monopoly. So investigative journalism really has its roots in the progressive era, that the people in our country have the right to know that these things are going on, and these people were some of the first to bring that information to them. Thanks for watching, guys, and be ready to use this information in class tomorrow.